Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad is Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar that Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 31st day of March, 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 2 entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, text number 33. Ata, on page 101. Ata Chet tvam imam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Okay, before I begin, can you turn the volume down a little bit? I think you'll be able to hear me okay if it's a little softer. Hare Krishna. Hari Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Well, that's pretty quiet now. Hare Krishna? Okay, that's good, Prabhu. Thank you. Okay. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtincha hitva papam avapsyasi. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Sorry. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Tapas, you go. Tapas, then you can go. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Ami, you go. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Go ahead. Atachet tvamimam dharmyam sangramam nakarishyasi tatak swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. You ready yet, Kathy? I know I see you chanting back there. Okay. I know, he's always there. Chad?
Atachet tvamimam dharmyam
Atachet tvamimam dharmyam
sangramam nakarishyasi
sangramam nakarishyasi
tata swadharmam kritim cha
tatak swadharmam kirtim cha
hitva papam avapsyasi.
hitva papam avapsyasi. Ata, therefore, chet, if from you imam this dharmyam as a religious duty, sangramam, fighting, na, do not, karishyasi, perform, tataha, then, swadharmam, your religious duty, kirtim, reputation, cha, also, hitva, losing, papam, sinful reaction, avapsyasi, will gain. Translation. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Purport. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupatastra. Everyone knew that he, Arjuna, was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from the battle. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So Krishna is giving another argument why Arjuna should fight. The first argument was, nobody's going to die here. And if you want to look at it that way, because everyone lives eternally. Jayate Miyate Bhakadachan. That's text 20. But on the other hand, there's another one. Everyone's going to die here anyway, whether you fight or not. So what's the point of not fighting? In other words, they'll all leave their bodies. Now he's appealing to him on the principle of dharma. You may remember that key verse, forget the number, but Arjuna surrenders. He says, Karpan yadosho pahatas svabhava pritchami tvam dharma samudacheta yakshe eksyan nishtitam bruhitan me nikshe eksyan yakshe eksyan nishtitam bruhitan me. Sorry. So there he says, Karpan yadosho, then due to this miserly weakness that I'm showing, he's recognizing this. I've lost, it has taken away my actual nature. Karpanidashu apahata swabhava. Arjuna's swabhava, his actual nature that he was born with, aptitude, is to be a fighter. He's the son of Indra, and he was trained by Dronacharya in his natural propensity. So he's a natural Kshatriya. But it's been stolen away. He doesn't want to perform it now. He doesn't feel inspired to fight because there's all of his friends and his grandfather and his teacher on the other side and so forth. So that's the idea. Pritchami tvam dharma samudacheta. I am bewildered about what is my real duty here. That is the idea. And he gave all kinds of reasons, seemingly based on Shastra, why he shouldn't fight. If I fight, then all the men will be killed, the women will be unprotected, there'll be Varna Sankara, and the Shraddha ceremonies won't be performed anymore. I'll be responsible. I'll go to hell along with everybody else. Who needs this? Even if I win the battle, it'll be soaked with the blood of the people I love, so I can't enjoy it. So I'll go to the forest. But that's not his real swadharma. So he couldn't do that, so he sits down on a chariot. He said, what am I going to do? Then he surrenders to Krishna, and now he's receiving these arguments. So, previous verse, he said, O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors to the heavenly planets. Because Arjuna is going to be on the side of righteousness, obviously, Yudhishthira and so forth. And so this is a great opportunity for any real Kshatriya, because it'll assure passage to heaven. But on the other hand, if you don't perform your religious duty, you will incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. And I don't know if he's already said it. Yeah. And the next verse will, again, he's going to refer to his reputation, how it'll be more painful than anything. For one who is honored, dishonor is worse than death. That's another argument. So Krishna is giving kind of transcendental arguments, but he's also giving even material arguments. It doesn't make sense materially why he should give it up. So from all angles of vision, he should fight. That's the idea. Okay. Akirtim chapi bhutani katayashyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya chakirti manarad atirichyate. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Purport. Both as a friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjun, if you leave the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you a coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So, close quote. So the final judgment of the Lord was for Arjun to die in the battle and not withdraw, as opposed to flee. But of course, he's such a great fighter, he'll come out victorious. You know. All right. Bayad ranad uparatam Mangsyante tvam maharataha Yesham chatram bahumato Bhudvaya sasilagavam. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Purport. Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. 36. Avachyavadang shabahun Padishyanti tabahitaha Dindantastav samarthyam Tato dukkataram dukim. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you? Purport. Lord Krishna was astonished in the beginning at Arjuna's uncalled for plea for compassion, and Krishna described his compassion as befitting the non-Aryans. Now, in so many words, he has proved his statements against Arjuna's so-called compassion. Hatova prapstasi svargam Jitva va bhokchase mahim Tasmaruttishta kaunteya Yudhaya kutanishtayaha. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore get up with determination and fight. Purport. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight. For even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. So it was like a win-win situation. That's it, you know. Even on the material platform. Sukadukke samekritva Labha labha jaya jayo Tato yudhaya yudjasva Naivam papam avapsyasi. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he, Krishna, desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. As it is said, Devashi bhutaptanrinam patrinam Naking karo nayam hrini charajan Savatmanayak sharanam sharanyam Gato mukundam pariritikartam. Anyone who is completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone. Not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. Bhagavad Gita 11.5.41. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. So this is an important verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that just by living, we may not know anything about Dharma or Krishna consciousness or anything, but just by living in this world, we incur so many debts. And there's a list here, the devas. When you think about it, we're depending on the air, the water, the earth, the sun. There are gods behind each of them, right? There's a sun god, there's Varuna for the water, there's Indra for the rains. So we depend on them, and therefore we're indebted. You see, when we eat something that's been grown, that's grown in the fields or anywhere, it depends on the rain, and the rain's coming from Indra. So that therefore we're debtors. The rishis can mean also our teachers. I remember when I used to go to grade school, and periodically, especially somehow from my 7th and 8th grade teachers, during the class, other students who had graduated, they gone on to high school or even in college, they would come back to visit the teacher and thank them for what they'd done, right? Because there's a debt there, you see. So the rishis, living entities in general, so many we depend on, of course, the cows obviously for milk, and what other animals do we depend on? The dogs and the cats, for comfort, on the material level. So there's living beings in general. I guess that includes. Oh no, here's Minam, human beings. Apta, I think, is relatives. Patrinam, the forefathers. We took birth, and even to servants. We're on page 104. 104. Sharanam Sharanyam. For one who has taken shelter of the best shelter, which is Krishna, and the spiritual master who represents Krishna. Gato Mukundam. He's already gone to Mukunda. In other words, it's just like you have a lot of debts, right? Credit card debts. And you get you get so many bills, and how are we going to pay all these bills? So you can consolidate all of the bills in one, and then you can just pay once a month to the. Can't you do that for the bank? I never went into debt my whole life, so I don't have experience to do that. But that's what it means. So we owe one main debt, because all of these entities who we depend on, the devas, the teachers, the living beings, the forefathers, etc. They have been able to give us something, whether it's something tangible or some service, because Krishna empowered them. We know that from the devas, right? Like in the Indra Yajna, the famous Indra Yajna that Krishna convinced his father not to do, So the idea is that, well, Indra, whatever he gives, whatever he's able to provide, is just because Krishna empowers him to do so. These demigods don't have any separate powers. They're especially assigned, the water god, the sun god, or like that. So if you're serving Krishna and he's satisfied, then your debt is met, is paid off. Gautama parihritya kartam. You've given up the idea. This idea is that you're no longer working separately from him, from Krishna. You're working for Krishna. So parihritya kartam. The sense of being a separate doer and responsible, that's given up if you're actually always serving Krishna and surrendered to Krishna. It's all on his account, you see. So that's the whole idea. Did I read the translation to this? I did, I think, yeah. So that's a fight for the sake of fighting. So this is the idea that simply to perform the duty is the best way to do everything. We're simply doing it. Krishna is the enjoyer of the results. If somehow it doesn't work out, I tried my best, and you're not disappointed. Oh, I failed. What good am I? But you tried what you could do, and it wasn't in the card. So it's for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness, distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. That's the way to perform the services. That you bring as much intelligence to bear, as much hope, and if it somehow doesn't work out, there's some, you want to go on Sankirtan and book distribution, and it's pouring out. You can rail against Indra. It's Indra's, but Really, it's up to Krishna. You know, it was not my fault. I wanted to go. You know, so that's the you give up this parivritya kartam. You give up the sense of being a separate doer, which is part of the illusion, as we'll learn in chapter 3. Prakriti Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara itiyam binna prakritirasada. So being bewildered by false ego, one thinks oneself the doer of activities that ultimately are actually done by material nature. That's the idea. So if one is aware of that and he said, well, I'm trying to do something for Krishna, but it's not working out, then you're not disappointed. It wasn't destined to be. But I'll still try tomorrow to keep serving. And so that means that you're not a separate. You don't consider yourself a separate actor with a separate independence. You realize you're dependent in every moment on Krishna. That's and for the success. And our perfection is to find out what our duty is from Krishna and the spiritual master. In this case, they're the same person, and try our best to succeed. And if somehow it's not going to happen today, maybe it'll happen tomorrow. But we tried our best, and therefore we can sleep soundly. Okay. Now he's going to change gears a little bit. Esha te bihita sankye buddhi-yoga timam shunu buddhya yukto yaya parta karma bandham prahasisi. Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruit of results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. Now this is karma yoga, but it's also called buddhi-yoga. You see the buddhi-yoga is in the verse. But it's also this karma yoga, means acting without desire for the fruits. Your desire is simply to please Krishna because he wants you to do it. Because Arjuna says, I don't want the fruit. The fruit is the kingdom, and it'll be soaked with blood. But for the pleasure of Krishna, then he'll be successful, even if he just tries to fight and he doesn't come out victorious. So that's ultimately the motivation. We speak of ahoituki apatiyata, that devotional service should be ahoituki, unmotivated. But that's a little misnomer. Without material motivation. If there's no motivation, you won't do anything, So that even it's material. We don't want material motivation. We want able to be spiritual motivation for Krishna's pleasure. You see, and then if we actually act that way, we'll find ourselves always in a transcendental bliss, even if somehow or other material energy or karma or whatever doesn't allow us to succeed as we hope to succeed. Because the whole difference is the state of consciousness by which we do things. That's the key. So now he's switching gear and he's going to talk about working without, fruit of desire, and therefore not being bound up by the karmic reactions. Karma bandham prahasisi. You can be liberated from karmic reactions. Purport: according to the Nirukti, or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. In fact, in most Bhagavad Gitas, this chapter is called Sankhya Yoga, because he's speaking so much about the soul. He's analyzing the difference between the soul and the body and things like that. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers. Okay, this is a mistake. Cousins. Prabhupada probably said cousin brothers here. There's this phrase. Is that something that you find in India? A cousin brother? Yeah. It means that they're actually cousins, but you have a brotherly relationship with them. Right? That's the idea. Yeah. Since I think that comes out of having an extended family, right? So you're living with them. These are my cousins, but I deal with them the same way I deal with my brothers, the cousin brothers. But then we had, I think recently we had where Arjun didn't want to fight with his cousins Krishna wanted him to fight with his cousins and brothers, but his brothers are the other four Pandavas, so that doesn't make sense. So he took out the brothers part, it's the cousins, it's the sons of Dhritarashtra. They're cousins. All right, but we had that. After conquering his cousins and brothers, his cousin brothers, in other words, his cousins, I think that now reads just cousins, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at the sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wanted to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna, and that's your Sankhya. That's your Sankhya, as he mentioned. I've described the Sankhya for you. And this descriptive knowledge of the soul and body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya. I didn't read ahead, believe me, in terms of the Nirukti dictionary. This Sankhya has nothing to do with the Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila's Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother, Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha, or the Supreme Lord, is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gītā. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti, or nature, and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya, or sense gratificatory illusion. And it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that a great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Okay, who knows the verse? It begins with Bahunam. Okay. Okay, you complete it. Jnanava. Yes. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam papadyate vasudevak sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. Prabhupada quoted often. This is 719. After many, many births, Bahunam janmanam ante, the one who is in knowledge surrenders unto me, surrenders unto Vasudeva. Bahunam jnanavan mam papadyate, surrenders unto me, understanding that Vasudeva, or myself, is everything ultimately. Okay, where was I? Okay, the second paragraph. Yeah. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Shishyasteham shadimantam papannam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in buddhi-yoga, or karma yoga. He's equating the two. Or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of the Lord. This buddhi-yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. All right, who knows that verse? Tesham satadayuknana. Go ahead. Dharmaraj, he's become a great scholar. Thank you. Yes, Tesham Satata. Now this is the third of the four key verses, right? So the first one, Krishna says, I am God, everything comes from me. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarva iti mat bhava jante mam buddha bhava samanvata. I am the source of everything, everything comes from me. Now it's interesting, why isn't that redundant? What's the difference? Well, he's saying from my point of view, everything comes from me. From your point of view, you see the everything, and then you see that I'm behind it. You see? So what is? I'm the source of everything. Everything comes from me. The wise who understand this perfectly worship me with all their heart. How? Next verse. Matchitta madgata prana bodhiyantak parasparam katayantashtamam nityam tushyanti chanamanti cha. So he's saying. The first thing is they put think of me. They put their conscience on. That's always first. Matchitta and madgata prana. They dedicate all of their life energy to me. All of it's devotional service. And matchitta madgata prana bodhiyantak parasparam. They come together and glorify me. Parasparam means mutually. The essence of that is sankirtan. I chant, you hear, you chant, I hear. Katayantashtamam nityam, always chanting my glories amongst each other. Tushyanti chadamanti cha. They feel very satisfied and enjoy transcendental bliss. And then comes the verse in question here. Tesham, and I always took that Tesham, I have to confirm this with the commentators, that Tesham can mean those who do the following, or those who do what I just mentioned, and in this way do the following. Tesham satati yuktanam, those who are always linked to me. How? By glorification, mostly, and different kinds of service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Bhajatam priti purvakam, wishing me with love and affection. Tadami buddhi-yogam tami, back to the buddhi-yoga. This is where the buddhi-yoga comes in. I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. Next verse. Tesham, another Tesham. Mercy verse. Evanukampartam ahama jnana jam tamaha nashiyam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena bhasvata. I, out of my compassion for them, and I brought this up last Sunday because it was supposed to be the theme of mercy, so I picked that verse because Krishna talks about it. So anukampa is the word for mercy. And I always thought, because I'm a dabbler in Sanskrit, I really know Sanskrit, but I deal with a lot of it, so I can. So anu means following, and kampa means trembling, right? It's one of the 8 main symptoms of ecstasy, trembling and ecstasy. So anukampa is a graphic description of empathy. Sympathy is one thing, but empathy is more emotional. You're feeling the pain. Sampara dukkha dukhi. That's more than sympathy, that's empathy. So Krishna has empathy for us. He knows exactly what we're feeling. He's in our heart, right? So Tesham evanukampadam, out of my compassion for them, I destroy the darkness of ignorance in the heart with the shining lamp of knowledge. He's in there as the super soul. So that's the 4th verse. So where was I? Yes, I didn't. Buddhi-yoga, Sishistam, Shalimam. This buddhi-yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10. Yes, thank you. Verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to the Lord, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to this stage of buddhi-yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service, out of transcendental love, does He award the pure knowledge of devotion in love. In that way, the devotee can reach Him easily in the ever-blissful kingdom of God. I think that's the fourth verse. I destroy the darkness with the shining lamp of knowledge. That's the buddhi. Thus, the buddhi-yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word Sankhya mentioned herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sankhya yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not, therefore, misunderstand that the Sankhya yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya. Nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. But even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here, Sankhya means analytical description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of buddhi-yoga or bhakti-yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all bhakti-yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yoga Pitak Bala Pravadantin Napandita. I think that's in the 5th chapter. Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with Bhakti Yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that buddhi-yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full bliss and knowledge of devotional service. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, one who works only for the satisfaction of the Lord, however difficult such work may be, is working under the principles of buddhi-yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord. And thus his liberation is complete in itself, without his making extraneous efforts to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for fruitive results, especially in the matter of sense gratification for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi-yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. So this buddhi-yoga obviously emphasizes the intelligence, buddhi-yoga. And that will become clear in the next chapter at the end there, when Arjuna asks, what is it that impels us to do things? Abdikena prayaktodam papam charati purusha anichanna vivashane baladi vinayojita. I always think of addiction when I hear that verse. You know, this is what is it that forces us to do things that even we know are bad for us? Imagine an addict or an alcoholic. You know, there's intelligence in there. This is bad for me, but I can't stop drinking. You know, that's you know, in the state that many people are in. So the emphasis there, if you remember, is on strengthening the intelligence to control the lower self by the higher self. That's the whole struggle. You know, we gain as much knowledge, we understand it's real, we experience the benefits of it in our practice. And then we need to apply the intelligence to control the mind, so that the mind doesn't take over and take us down roads that are damaging for our Krishna consciousness. So that's really the essence of the sadhana. All the sadhana we do is meant to, you know, attract us to Krishna, fill our minds with thoughts of Krishna, and with the intelligence, keep doing those things that eventually will purify the mind so much that we aren't even attracted anymore. That's that vairagya. That vairagya comes with knowledge, jnana and vairagya, right? So in the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, we find, I think, text number 7, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojitaha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahoitakam. It's very, you know, very pertinent. So he's describing what's the supreme dharma. The supreme dharma is that which engenders, develops your natural bhakti. Sabai pangsang paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje. Ahaitukki apratayata yatma supasidi. There's that ahoitaki word. You know, without material motivation and unbroken. That's the standard. That can give full satisfaction to the soul. And naturally what develops, if you practice it, Vasudeva Bhagavati, Bhakti Yoga Priyojitaha, engage, what do you develop? Janayati means generate. It's the same word. Generate, it generates, janayat, ashu, quickly, vairagyam, jnanam chayadahoitikam. Without trying, the word ahoitika is there also. Without trying separately, you'll develop that vairagya, that detachment from material things, and along with it, knowledge. Because knowledge also always goes with vairagya. So he's these, you know, actually, of course, the Gita and the Bhagavad Gita have so many parallel ideas. Okay, next verse. Now here's one that I quote all the time because yes, go ahead.
Here, Srila Prabhupada mentions that like Girahastha and Giromedi, like
what is it?
Like one who is working for family, sense gratification in family life. One is working for Krishna. So how does it different are they? Well,
that's the usual manifestation of material life. Because when you get into Kali Yuga and the families break up, and it's a different thing. But the usual way is to get entangled in materialistic family life, simply to be concerned with the maintenance of the family and all of the things that go with it. It doesn't have to be full of all kinds of sin, but if that's your only concern, then you're going to stay conditioned because it's ultimately material attachments that will be broken. You know, that will. So that's the standard way of describing. You find in the second canto at the beginning the dangers of simply becoming absorbed in family life. Deha pattakalatradishu atma sainyeshu asatsapi tesham brahmaton hidadam pashyan apina pashyati. He's describing that materialists who are, you know, absorbed in family life, they regard the fallible soldiers of the body, the children, the wife, bank account, you know, that these are going to protect us. But if they fail, ultimately they fail in protecting you just by the nature of time. So they're called the fallible soldiers. Deha, the body is the first line of defense, right? And we'll go to the, what is it, the yard gym, you know, every day. Okay, they're powerful. I'm chanting my japa, walking by like it. So that's illusion, because the body is ultimately fails you, you know. So that's a fallible soldier. Hapatya, the wife. Yes, we have a nice bond here, and we're gonna, you know. But that ultimately, just by the force of time, doesn't work out. How about the children? The same thing. The children grow up, you know, go away, etc. You know, bank account, all these different things. They're all fallible soldiers. You're putting your faith in something that's fallible. That's the same idea that Prahlad had when he spoke the first lesson to his father. His father said, "What did you learn today? What's the best thing you learned today?" Hoping to hear some description of Machiavellian, you know, making friends and killing the enemies. No. He said, "Sadhamanye asodabharya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asadgrahat." He's describing in 2 lines there material, you know, entanglement. The best thing I learned today, he didn't call him father, probably pointed out, the best of the demons. Tat sadhu man. Sadhu can mean bravo. It can mean the best. In this case, it means the best thing. Asodabhaya, best for whom? Prabhupada says, for the conditioned soul, for all of us, who are sada samudvigna, always disturbed. Samudvigna diyam, their consciousness or intelligence, asadgrahat. In 4 syllables, he described the whole material situation. Hanging on for dear life to the temporary. We're right here with the ocean. He always gives this analogy. You're out there, people have these boats, these pleasure boats, they go out, you know. So suppose the boat springs a leak. Oh my God, what happened to our pleasure cruise? Now we're in danger. But luckily we have these life preservers. You know, okay, so we'll go off in the life preserver. Now we're floating along. We radioed. We were able to radio the cell phone. You know, they're coming to get it. It's no problem. You know, but the life preserver is also leaking. We didn't maintain it. We didn't check it. Now what are we going to do? So they take shelter of the asat. You see, and similarly, this is a life preserver too. Very complicated one. The body itself. So that's all ignorance. Asat grahat. Therefore, there's all of this anxiety. You know, okay, we got it together. Now we got our apartment here in San Diego, and we can enjoy like anything, you know, like that. But what do? They just raise the rent 20%. My God! And I go to the grocery store. What is this? The avocados are $3.50 a piece. They used to be, you know, 2 for $5. So in other words, you think you have it together, but you don't have it together. Things happen like that. So it's not good. So what's the that's 2 lines. He paints it very concise. So what's his preaching to his father? Fearlessly, a little boy, you know, his father's a huge, humongous, monstrous demon, could crush him. And so he doesn't care. He's going to preach Krishna consciousness. So he says, basically he says, hit vatnapatam, give up this grihamanda kupam, this blind well of grihamedi life, the family. It's full of sin. And Vanam Gato, go to the forest, Vrindavan, it's implied. Vanam Gato Yed, and then here's the word that just fell on Hiranyakashipu's ears like a whip. Hadam Ashriyeta, and take shelter of Hari. Hari just killed my brother, Hiranyaksha. Get out of here. But actually, before he does that, he looks at Shanda and Amarka. What have you been teaching him? You know, he didn't say anything, but we didn't teach him that. We don't know where he went. So that's the dynamic with Prahlad. But throughout the Bhagavatam, you have the same lesson. You know, is that don't don't get, and I mean, what to speak of this, crazy world we're in, where, as it says right in the Bhagavatam, 12th canto, that in Kali Yuga, marriage will become an imagination. People get married. Who needs to get married? We just live together and happily ever after. But it doesn't work. So we need to. That's why the buddhi is so important. What are we doing by studying the Bhagavatam? We're trying to fill our intelligence. We should approach it with it and think about it, and strengthen the intelligence. Some of you may have been in the class last Sunday night. Actually, it was 2 nights ago. No, it was last night. Right? Sunday night. Yeah. And Narendra was giving that lecture. So he asked me to chant that verse, because we came upon the verse of Madhavendra Puri. I read in another source that he wrote that verse. And it's exactly that it says, Kamadinam katina katita padita dunideshas. That kamadinam is kama, etc. Kama, krodha, moha, lobha. All of these are like masters. When we have no Krishna consciousness, no spiritual development, then we're at the mercy of our crazy mind, and which has been contaminated by bad association. So life after life, we're obeying the demands of this mad mind of ours, in the form of kama, lust, and lobha, and greed, and anger, and all of these kama, etc. And we learn in the 3rd chapter. What is it? Kama becomes lobha, becomes anger, right? It develops one after another. So it's kama adinam katina katita palita duni deshas. In how many ways have I sought to obey the seductive demands of my wicked desires? They've shown me no mercy, yet on I've gone shamelessly trying to quench lust's unquenchable fires. But now, due to the buddhi being strengthened, but now I'm rejecting these hellish desires, for my higher intelligence now has awoken. O Krishna, O shelter of fearlessness, please let me serve you with faith that will never be broken. So that's really Krishna consciousness in a nutshell. Strengthening the intelligence through Krishna consciousness, so you have the strength to control these desires we've developed over millions of births, until finally they become purified. Instead of the desire to enjoy sense gratification, becomes the desire to serve Krishna. And the more that we can feel that, then the more peace we have. Why aren't people peaceful? This is also Lord Chaitanya's instruction, And it says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateheva Shanta. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. So he says, Krishna Bhaktas, devotees, are free of selfish desire, free of karma. They are full of desire to serve Krishna. It's wholesome. And therefore they're peaceful. This comes up at the end of this chapter, of becoming what really is desireless. Vihaya kama niksam pumang chari nikspraha. Nirmamo narahankara sashanti matigachati. Because that desirelessness only leads to reformation of the false ego to the real ego. The false ego feeds on these selfish desires. So vihaya kaman, yaksarvan, giving up the lusty desire. Puman chadadi nikspraha, free of selfish desire. Nikspraha. Vihaya kaman is a puman chadadi nikspraha. Nirmamo narahankara. No sense of possessiveness. That's another thing. I and my. That's the two limbs of a false ego. Nirmamo narahankara sashanti madhigachati. One attains real peace. So in Lord Chaitanya's verse, it says, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakaliya Shanta. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Akdeva Shanta. Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakaliya Shanta. So he has a characteristic of the different kinds of, mostly 99.9 is bhukti, gross and subtle sense gratification. But there's also the mukti kamis. This, the desire for one's own liberation, is selfish desire. That's also in this realm of karma. Remember Prahlad's verse, Prayena Deva Munio Swava Mukti Kama, Maunam Chadanti Vijanena Padartanishta. Mostly these munis, they're after their own liberation. They go to the hills and the mountains out of lust for their own mukti. They go specifically where there's no other people, They don't say anything, Maunam, that's the origin of the word muni. Who are you helping by that, Anyway, I don't go too far afield. We're kind of running out of time. Did we finish the purport? No, we didn't start. Oh, 2:40. Okay. I think we'll leave that for tomorrow. I already gave you one poem. I can give you one more. Okay. This is a very sweet poem. You probably heard it recently, but it's the prayer of Rupa Goswami to always have the beautiful lotus face of Krishna growing in the lake of his heart. It says, Smita duchi makadanda, syandi vaktrara vindham, tavapadapadahan sanvishta gandham mukunda, vidachita pashupali netra sarangarangam mamadidiyata dhage sangamangi karotu. From the lotus of your face, dear Lord, trickles forth the luscious nectar of the beauty of your smile. Your exalted devotees, great swans, seek the fragrance of that lotus which does ere their hearts beguile. Your beloved Gopi's eyes, mad bees, taste the most exquisite pleasure in that lotus of your face. O my dear Mukunda Dev, I pray, may the lake of my poor heart be by that lotus ever graced. So now, remembering that verse, when the curtains open, you can look at Gita Hari. And then, if you feel yourself falling due to ecstasy, just let us know and we'll try to catch you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.